Okay, so I was asking, so you have your idea and you validated it. What next do you do?
Yeah, so the next part is you need to start coming up with possible solution ideas. The best way to do it, I found, was just to, depending if you're alone as a single solo founder, indie hacker, or you're co-founder, so you can get together and start to brainstorm solutions, possible solutions. Just forget about technology, forget about everything, and just try to sketch out possible solutions for it on a piece of paper. It helps a lot, or a whiteboard, and then go through it and keep sketching without editing it, and then taking a look at a few of the options that you sketched out and see which one is the most, the one you like the most. And then try to build like really quickly, either do a high fidelity mock of it and start showing it to people, or if it's fast enough, you can try to just build it as well. For example, in Picture That case, because it was an augmented reality app, like there's really no point in doing high fidelity mocks for it, because you actually need to try it physically. It actually makes no sense in that case. So it's actually just sat down with my mentor and the idea, and he said, why don't you just build it? So I spent the afternoon and just built it. It didn't take that long to get something very basic working. So I got it working, and it worked a lot better than I thought it would, which was really cool to see. It was really interesting. So the idea there was there's no ability to do vertical tracking. There's no ability. Yeah, it's vertical tracking. There's no ability to track walls in the first version of ARKit, and I wanted to hang things on the wall. So instead of finding the wall, I let the user place the wall where the camera is. So in other words, I tell the user, hey, walk up to a wall with your phone in your hand, place the phone on the wall, and click a button to tell me this is where the wall is, and then back away and look back, and that's where the wall is. That's where I'm going to hang the picture. So it's like hanging a physical picture on the wall, which is really interesting. So that's the motion. I really like that. I had no idea if it'll work well, if people get annoyed or not, but turned out people quite liked it. I liked it. So the first person that liked it was me. So I really liked it, started hanging things, posted it on Twitter, I think, at the time as well, and got some good feedback that way on it. And then I just started iterating on it and getting more and more feedback, and releasing it to people. Yeah, I probably should have done more iterations and more user testing at the time, usability testing. I didn't quite know how to do it at the time. They're still learning how to do it today. I did go to a coffee shop, I think, at one point, and asked people to, hey, like, what do you think it does? And can you try it for me? Like, here's my phone. Like, what do you do? So I did try that, look over their shoulder, but it wasn't, I didn't have consistent enough. I didn't use 10 users. I just used like 3, 4. I can't remember how many people I used. So that's what I would probably change these days, is I would just iterate over it differently. If you have, sometimes a high fidelity prototype would be good enough. Something like Figma, Sketches, or like InVision, something like that will work really well. So you can just take it and show it to people. You can even use the paper prototype to actually show it to people. It will work. They'll give you feedback on it to see if it makes sense. But most of the time, most people will just not understand what's going on. Like if you just give them a bunch of paper mocks, they will just look at you funny. And even high fidelity prototypes, they will try to, it would be interesting to see where they try to click, because it'll tell you. Right. And it will never work, because you will never actually think of where they're going to click.
Exactly. And you have to create like so many screens, and they'll never understand that you can't go back. Oh, you can't go back there. Okay.
So before even doing any of the paper prototypes, actually another thing you could and should do in case of something really innovative like that, like something really new that's just not out there yet, is test everything that's out there. Like try to download as many apps as humanly possible. Apple gives you a lot of example code, for example, and all of their APIs there's a lot of examples. So you can download all of them, launch it on your phone, try every single one you can, and try to think of how it might incorporate into your product. So one of the ones I tried was something like Airbrush or something like that. It allowed you to draw things in the air in augmented reality. And that's where the idea came from. I realized that I can actually use the location of the camera phone, the physical position of the phone in the space to approximate the location of the wall. That's where the initial idea came from. And I just sketched it out to see what like a stick figure man holding a phone against the wall. Like, and I thought about like what it would look like to show the user that. So that was the initial, and then I just prototyped and it worked really well. So in that case, that was great. The thing I don't like about it and think I'm going to change in this iteration, so I'm going to rebuild this app completely, is now we're starting to kind of have the capability to save the environment. And with the LiDAR scanner, now I can scan the walls. So I can actually have a really accurate location of walls. It's no longer the case that not only you couldn't do it before, now you can do it, but you can do it accurately. So now I'm going to actually redo the whole thing again. It's been a long enough time though that I can do that. I think of the user, I guess, in a sense, and think of what they say and like, am I happy with the product? And what's my goal with the product? Obviously, you cannot rebuild something. You need to get something out there. You need to start making money. And if you just keep iterating over and over and over and over again endlessly, you'll never make a dollar. So you either have to decide, I'm going to keep iterating on this and something else is going to make me money. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, because I just haven't arrived at something that's good enough. Mm-hmm. Or you have to say, okay, this is already providing value. Let's just improve the value that it currently provides and let's get people using it. So people are already using Picture.that. They're already actually enjoying it. And they're using it in ways that I never imagined they'll be using it, which was probably one of the coolest discoveries. I'll give you an example. I talked, so I'll track how many times people hang pictures with the app, and I'll look at it. And there's one user that was just hanging like dozens a day. And I'm like, what is going on? This is really interesting. I got to reach out to this person. So it turns out, mm-hmm. Oh, what's that?
Like, do you have an art gallery or something? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I've never imagined what was going on, actually. So this person is actually an artist, and he actually builds a physical medium. And so he would create sculptures and like from like fine materials. And it's really expensive, so you don't want to just, and he doesn't know exactly the shape that he wants, but he wants to know like approximately the size of it. So what he would do is he would actually use Picture.that, do Photoshop like of the rough 2D shape, put it into Picture.that, and then instead of hanging it on the wall, he would just put it on a table. He would just put his phone on the table, click the button and back away, and then it will kind of approximate what it would like. With having to use like complicated 3D software to do it. And he would just do it a lot because he's an artist. And I'm like, wow, I've just never thought about that. I really like that fact that it was a tool for creatives so things like that, you just never think about. You just have to talk to people, I guess. Yeah. And I'm still trying to realize, like one of my challenges right now is do I go after creatives? Or do I go after interior designers? Do I go after e-commerce owners? So those are questions that I need to still answer for this product. for example. Like it's just a very different product depending what segment I go after. It's a different product, but it's also interesting to see the use cases that people have for your product.
That's awesome. I mean, it must be like one of the best feelings having someone use what you built as a tool to make their lives easier. So that's like that's an amazing feeling. Um, so how do you choose for design what design system to use or design style to use, and for coding what stack to use? How do you make that decision?
Yeah, I will ask you the design system questions back to you, but I'll answer the I'll answer the other questions, and I'll so pretty much whatever you know best is the best tool to use. I used to worry too much, and just until recently, I only realized this recently. I don't care what everybody else thinks. Don't worry about everybody else. It's about you and what you like. And it doesn't matter if your friend thinks the new hotness is the coolest thing ever. And if you hate it, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work how your brain works, it doesn't matter. So if Illustrator works best for you, use Illustrator. If Sketch works best for you, use Sketch. If Figma works best for you, use Figma as a tool. It doesn't matter what tool it is. The customer doesn't care at the end how you created it. And the same thing with the stack. Just use whatever works for you and keep it really, really simple. That's kind of what I learned there. And that's why I was able to like picture that. For example, I didn't even know Swift that much. So it was just a really ugly one file that the initial prototype was. And then I brought in my friend to help me, who was an iOS developer, to help me fix some of it, make it a little bit more structured, and come up with new ideas. But I try not to have too much structure to things until I absolutely need it. So stack wise, like what works for me, because I know React really, really well. I realize React works for me really well. So I stick with that ecosystem right now, even though I like Vue and I like all Svelte, I like all these cool things. That's not the goal. It's not my goal ever. I don't care. The short of it, I just care about the product and I care about the end result. And if those tools, if Svelte will allow me to create a product that's better and offers more capabilities to my user, I'll switch to Svelte. But if it doesn't, and I don't think it does, what is the point of using something I don't know, spending the time learning it? I'd rather spend the time learning the product that I'm trying to build and understanding the customers. So for me, it's React is kind of my stack, and Rails on the API side to build something really quick. And then just really light TypeScript, just limiting the tools. And I can use Figma or Sketch for some of the light prototyping. Doesn't really matter to me. And a piece of paper works really well. And then I'll just use, I tried Notion, tried tools, but I used Jira for work and I know how to use it. I don't love it by any means, but I don't love project management in general. It's just something that you have to do and you have to do it really well. So I just use something like Jira for that, or just Bear app notes to just list a bunch of things I'm going to work on. So yeah, so that's the stack. Just keep it simple as you can, and just focus on the user. The other thing, I guess, that's important is why I like choosing React is it has a lot of pre-built stuff that saves you a lot of time. So if you can buy it, I'll buy it. If you can get it for free open source, even better. But don't be afraid to spend a lot of money on things, because it's just going to save you a lot of time. And so I'll just try things out, see what works. And React has a huge component ecosystem, so you can do a whole lot of things really, really quickly.
Yeah, you dropped so many gems there. Yeah, I love the fact that you said you focus your time on the product and the customer rather than learning the stack just to learn the stack. That's actually very key, and I'll take notes of that. So you have your idea, you validated it, you currently building it, you're on your version 1. When do you know it's time to, or you have an MVP? How do you know you have an MVP? Yeah. How yeah, how do you know you've built something?
Yeah, the MVP that you think is the MVP and the MVP that the customer thinks is the MVP are two different things. And it's different. So there's a huge difference between consumer apps and B2B apps. And if people are going to rely on your app to run their business, if it's like a niche business, you're going to have a lot of features in that because they're just, every business is slightly different and they're going to need a lot of things. So you're going to build a big product and it will take you a while to build it. But the MVP that you're probably going to build initially is just going to do one little function for them. And you're going to start getting feedback of what's important to them. And you'll keep adding things until they want to buy it, or hopefully you get to sell it to them really quick with the B2B app. With a B2C, it's interesting. It's for me, the MVP is when it starts delivering some form of value. That's the MVP. So if it's already useful and usable, I'll just at least quietly launch it. I did that with Imogination after one weekend. It was able to create a visual. You just pick some emojis and it creates a nice visual for you. You can edit everything and download it and post it on social media. That's it. It wasn't responsive at the time. I just released the responsiveness. It had a lot of stuff really, and the other thing they put that key structure simple is don't worry about the code quality. Like nobody cares about as long as you can understand the mess that you created, you're fine. That's all you need to worry is you. When you bring another person, it's a different story. But when it's just you, as long as you can manage within that mess that you created, it doesn't matter because you're going to change things anyway. So just focus on showing it to people and customer. And it took me a very, very long time to learn that. By the way, I was focusing way too much on code quality, and I'll go back and forth between these two things, either making it really, really messy to making it really, really perfect and clean and everything is tested and 100% code coverage, but it doesn't matter. And so as long as you can deal with it, that's fine.
Awesome. You threw a question to me earlier and I sidestepped it. Let me just go back to the question.
What do you use for your design stack?
Yeah, for the design stack. Pretty much what the existing customer is familiar with. So you try to get in their heads basically. And if your product is like something that tilts towards booking something, so like go to the Uber app because most people use Uber and see how that works and try to design with that in mind. You can also add your own uniqueness, but also know that people use what they're familiar with. So if you're trying to do something, don't start from scratch. Just copy what someone else has done that your users are familiar with, and that would start building out your design system and your design language. Because if they land on your site and it looks very unfamiliar, they'll click off, they'll bounce off. So try to design what they're familiar with. That's the way I do it. Okay. So you mentioned
and for the retouching.
Yeah.
I was saying I do that too. I download a whole lot of apps in the same domain, and I just try and start picking my favorite parts of it, and I'll keep notes of what they are and is that type of interaction working for my customers and my set. Their example, design an e-commerce experience for photography. E-commerce, when they buy a photography, I went to e-commerce sellers and tried all their apps, tried their web apps, how do they do their navigation? Like, do I like it? Like, like, do they leave you in the same place, or do you go to the cart and you can't go back? Things like that that I would note, and I just try to just capture the best parts of it. With that said, there is some elements of you don't want to become a photocopy that's worse of your competitors. So I've been reading Blue Ocean Strategy. It's a really good book. And it talks about not copying competitors, focusing on customer value and creating customer value. And there's different techniques in doing that. And one of them he was talking about was looking at other industries and seeing what values you can capture from those other industries that you wouldn't normally think about. So that's a really good approach. So for example, if you're building a ride sharing app, maybe looking at something like booking plane tickets would be a good thing that you're not, or booking hotel bookings. Like you can learn stuff from those industries and kind of try to bring those ideas back. You're not necessarily, if you're Lyft, you don't want to just be stealing everything from Uber, because you'll never be able to steal everything from Uber, because you always be one step behind Uber. Right? Uber doesn't do that. They just go and they look at other things, and you want to be that person, not the second player in the industry.
Yeah, and just as I've been meaning to read Blue Ocean Strategy. I've had it in my catalog for years. I've run through it, but I need to read it page by page. But yeah, that's a good point. And one thing that's also helped me not directly copy is to realize that no app is perfect, and every app or every product has flaws. So you look at it and you're intimidated, and you see that they have a large customer base and they're making millions and billions, and you're like, that's the strategy to go with. But if you take another look and try and find the flaws in that product you're trying to copy for, you will see some flaws. And once you can start stripping away those flaws and bringing in what you think is the solution, it's going to turn into a whole new product. So it's just to stop looking at these competitors and seeing them as perfect people, taking off those glasses and start seeing flaws in what they're doing, and that would strip away directly copying. And also, I believe in adding your own style, adding your own unique flair. Like everything you like comes from somewhere, and there's a huge chance that things that you like, a ton of people, maybe thousands or million people like that thing. So if you are brave enough to just add your own flair and be bold in doing that, you're gonna get like a lot of people are still gonna see it as unique, and they'll never know that, hey, this guy stole from this competitor, because you've totally added your own flair to it. So that helps me a lot. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned project management, which is mind-boggling, because these things are usually like side projects or passion projects, and they're not things that you build 24/7 on the grind, things that you build on the side. So why do you think project management is still important when building, something on the weekend or on the side?
Because how do you know on next? Like maybe it's just me. I can't remember things from one weekend to the next. I don't remember what I was working on last weekend. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast that afternoon, let alone what I did a week ago. So it just helps you focus on things a little bit more. It doesn't have to be really complicated. It can be really, really simple. It can be just a checklist of things on like Evernote or Bear or whatever note-taking app. It can be a physical notebook that you slash items off there, but you need some sort of ability, unless you have really good memory, I guess. But I'm not in that camp, unfortunately. I wish I was, but I am not. And there's like a lot of things going on, so that's why the short of it. I think it's important. Also, if you need help, you can actually get help from other people if they have time, or you can hack with them. You can do a hacking weekend with friends and work on their business one weekend, work on your business the next weekend. So you can kind of help each other. And so that will really help as well.
Awesome, awesome. I believe in documentation, the act of documentation. Even if I'm working on a project and it's just me, I like to document everything about that project, how I'm feeling, what I achieved that day. Because of what you said, it keeps you accountable, it keeps you focused. And in my mind, I feel this is going to be a big thing one day. So it's going to be awesome to look back at those initial stages. So I think product management and documenting are actually really good, no matter what you're doing. I do it to everything. Yeah, I do it to everything. It's awesome. So you've built your
Yeah.
so you built your MVP, and what does launch look like, and what does launch feel like? What exactly what's launching? What does that mean?
It's interesting. I guess what to me, it's when you tell everybody you know and you open a billion chats on every single platform that you have, and you just say, I built this, can you upvote it, can you do this, like on every single platform. Like it'll take an entire day probably to just reach out to everybody that you know to tell them that. That's a launch for me. That's what I ended up doing for Picture That. I just put it on Product Hunt. I actually contacted a friend of friends who is a big hunter on Product Hunt, and I asked him if he can post it for me. So he did. That was really helpful. And then I just started messaging a whole bunch of people to let them see it. My friends already knew about this. A lot of them already, like, they've already seen me, because I would just mention it every time I would see them in person. It was back in the day when you can actually see people in person. So every time they would see it, then I would just show them. That's the nice thing about the mobile app and a non B2B, a consumer level app, is that it's really easy to show it to somebody. It's really easy to explain it to somebody versus, I don't know if you had like a stock trading app, and you're trying to show it to your art class friend. It just not going to resonate with them probably very well. And you probably won't even be able to show it to them maybe. But anyway, so you just start contacting people and showing them everything, messaging people, posted as many. I had a checklist of like what I needed to do, where I wanted to post it on. So I just go through the checklist, each item, and I'm having a million conversations with as many people as I can at a time. And yeah, it takes like a couple of days. It's pretty exciting. And then I would get distracted and look at the product and feel proud most of the time. And then I just keep talking to people. That's kind of a launch day. It looks like, but that's kind of essentially what mine looked like. I was lucky in Picture that Ryan Hoover even commented on it, which was kind of cool. And then a few months later, actually, the New York Times contacted me to do an article, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it gives you like those little spikes, but that's not what's going to keep traffic to your product. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But you're going to get that coming back. You don't need to just be one time people to check it out. What's your launch day look like, Peter?
That was even my follow-up question. 1 second. So currently I haven't built my first SaaS product. Most things I've built are company based or just maybe design based or something. But start from the design and code of my own product, I'm not currently done that, so I can't really speak to that. But I'm building like a copywriting tool for creators. and I can't wait till my own launch day. That would be exciting. So like my question is for people like me, like what's your advice for people that are stuck in development hell or even like are anxious about launching or in just that phase? What's your advice in that phase?
Yeah, so I'm not alone in this, but I have this problem of coming up with ideas that are really big and scope creeping the hell out of them, or really small and scope creeping out the hell out of them. Either way, it's really hard for me to come up with something small. So the smaller you can make something, so make something really small, like Imogination is a step in that direction. So I'm trying to kind of rehab myself away from these grandiose things. So the longer you wait, the more painful it's going to be. That's what I'm gonna say. So you should launch it as fast as you can. Start giving it to people just as much as you can. Like you're not one of those big influencers probably, and so you're not gonna have like 10,000, 100,000, whatever followers. So it doesn't really matter. So if people don't like the first product, there's always more people. So, you're not gonna run out of people. Probably, if you're gonna run out of people, well, maybe this is the wrong product. But most likely, like if two people like don't like it and you get really negative feedback from them, there is a million more out there. So you have to kind of remember that. You don't want to totally disregard it, but you have to take everything with a grain of salt a little bit there, I think. So yeah, try to launch something tiny that's valuable. Just start doing that. And if your big idea, like it's good to have big ideas, but and I'm trying to come up with small ideas like Imogination. I'm constantly trying to think of something really, really small that I can just launch and I don't care about as much. In a sense that I haven't attached months and months of work into it and like tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of development. I haven't done that with that product. So I don't feel bad if like 10 people reply on Reddit. Oh, so that's fine. Okay, it's great. I learned how not to do it. That's good. So that's the advice, I guess, is try to launch something really small there, part of the product, if you can. You can rename it, rebrand it even, but you can also just try a different idea altogether and then get ready for when your big idea, when you need to do that big launch, then you'll be ready because you'll already know how not to do it.
Awesome. Um, so um, it's cool that you mentioned talking to people and direct marketing and putting it on product hunts and doing all these things. There's this myth or notion, I don't want to even put a tag to it, but people think that just simply putting your work out there on a tweet or just putting the website link, it's enough. And they feel like if the product is really good, then it should sell itself. What do you think about that?
No, I wish. I wish that was true. There's a few times where it could happen. Like, for example, if you put it on some sort of a marketplace, like you're doing a course and you're putting something on something like Udemy, they did a lot of the marketing for you. So if you actually pick the right title and if the content on the surface looks appealing, if the book cover is really attractive, they're gonna read the book. If it's not, no matter how good the content of the book is, they'll never ever pick up the book. So most people don't realize how even the name is super important because that's what people are gonna remember or not remember. And your tagline is super important because that's how people are going to understand it. So like spend a lot of time on those things and start from the beginning. I would say like marketing is number one. So you should start doing it day one. Marketing, I would say it's not something you bootstrap on top later. It should also live in your product in a sense that your product should be telling a story. So like, for example, if you're building a project management tool and you want the project management tool to be like a calm, relaxing project management tool without stress, and that's going to be a marketing. But inside of the product needs to address that and have very calm colors, very spaced out layouts, and just relaxed, kind of like not crammed. Like you can't just like bootstrap it later. Like it just won't work because you won't have these concepts to begin with. So yeah, it doesn't work like that. I wish it did. It's really hard, and I'm still trying to figure out the marketing side. And for Imogination, it's something I'll be working on hopefully this weekend. But I've been procrastinating that because I just don't know how to do it exactly.
It's fine. I'll put a link to Imogination and shout it as much as I can. So at least that side is covered. And I'll tell people about it.
I just need to even explain. I haven't even done the like, what can you do with it? I just built a tool, and it's like, yeah, there you go. You can create stuff, but I haven't shown examples on the site, anything like that. Like all the normal stuff that you see, that the social proof, the examples of what can be done, and like what kind of things it covers. I haven't done any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't told the story of where it came from as well. Like it actually came from a place. It came from me doing, it came from me actually trying to make it fun and appealing, a recruiting message. So I just open up Photoshop, and it took forever to put like just a couple of emojis, a small message, and we're hiring, a company logo in there. And I thought it showed the culture more. It's just a fun, easygoing culture, and a culture where I wanted to work at. So that's where Imogination came from. I wanted to not create boring. We're hiring. Here's a black suit and tie kind of. We'll choke you to death. You're gonna work here until you die, kind of places that I don't want to work at ever. So that's where the story came from. But it also is kind of a fun way to communicate ideas too. Just really lightweight blog post titles and stuff like that I'm also using it for.
Yeah. It's good you mentioned storytelling. I believe like in today's landscape, storytelling is a big separator because the technology is out there. Like we're not even surprised at seeing the tech part of it. I think we fall in love with the story of products. I mean, like we're on Zoom right now, and Skype does exactly what Zoom does, but we're probably on Zoom because we know the story around Zoom. A lot of people are using Zoom since the pandemic, and finally get to use Zoom, even though like the other tools just will gravitate to where the story is. So I think I think storytelling would really be a good aspect of marketing. So what else?
I think the story for a lot of products, especially if there's other products like it there, like again, if you go for the project management, it's a really competitive space. Lots of people out there doing it, but if you can appeal to a small niche of people, so say you do a project management tool for farming, right? Something really out there. Like I don't know how many people are actually targeting farmers out there, but it's an important thing. And if all your messaging is around that, and also all the other products they can probably do the same thing, but they have a million things you don't need. So they have a lot of noise that they create. So one of the advantages that you have as an indie hacker is that you have small products, like really simple products. And that's beautiful, and you should not take that lightly. Like everything you add subtracts from the value. So be really careful what you add to your product. It's not about having a billion features. At least the products that I like building are not that. I don't like products like that. Some people do, and power to you. But be comfortable with having like very little features, and people are actually going to like it. It's going to be a really good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah, just to add to that, something I learned recently. Some years ago, I used to always think, yeah, you need to have like all the features and be an all-in-one software for a particular problem. But I got to find out that you should be very organic as you build. So solve one problem, get like a user base, talk to them users, and get your next feature from those users, right? Because yeah, like exactly what you said, by adding more, you're taking away the value and simplicity of that product. So it's very interesting you mentioned that, because sometimes I just recently um, started understanding. So it's really really cool about that. Then the niche, or targeting a niche, we all want big numbers. We all want 100,000 people are using our product, million views, number one on product hunt. How do you kind of like kill that part of yourself and just say, hey, I want to target 20 people and grow from there? But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's good to be ambitious, and it's good to have numbers that grow. It's going to be a much slower burn than you'd think. Probably it's just going to be flat for a long time. Go like this. You have to still be growing even a little bit every day. Like, so you should just experiment with things, and eventually you'll find something that kind of works. It'll be very slow. You'll be doing a bunch of things at once, but every week you should be looking at your numbers again and again and again, and seeing, am I progressing in the right fashion? Am I also, you have to compare it to your runway. Like, how long do you have before you run out of money? So if you're only progressing at 10% and you're going to run out of money in 6 months, and you need to go in like 3 times as fast to actually not run out of money, you have to try something a bit more risky, or you have to plan for a longer burn period. So maybe don't wait the 6 months. Then you maybe you have to start doing consulting on the side or something. You have to start kind of looking at ways to be sustainable, which is really challenging for us, because that's what we're doing. That's what we want to be free and not work for other people as much as possible. So that's, I think, the challenging part, and I'm still struggling with myself. But yeah, like doing metrics every week and just taking a look at, okay, it increased a little bit. What worked? What didn't work? Why? And let's try something else next week. It's like going to the gym. You can't just go to the gym one day and expect to see a result. You can't just like lose weight from one day, or gain muscle mass in just one. And you have to keep going and going and going. And if after a couple of months you don't see any results, you probably need to do something different. And it's the same thing for products. You need to do like the little things every day, the daily habits. And then if you don't see changes, you probably need different daily habits. And you need to kind of adjust them until you find something that will kind of start to work.
I think on a later date, we'll have to dive into pricing and charging and how to actually market and sell to people. But I think we've covered all the ground for at least.
Yes, I still need to learn that myself.
Exactly. But hopefully soon you'll be an expert, and I predict you'll be an expert on that and get that information from you. So my final question, or if you have any other questions, we can talk about it. But I just want to ask, what are the biggest things that you've learned building software? And 10 years ago, or how many years ago, if you could go back, what would you scream at yourself to know this? Like, this is the key thing you have to know when it comes to building software.
Keep it simple is the biggest thing I probably learned. Don't worry too much. Just keep it really, really simple. Focus on arriving at your destination with the least amount of structure, and just like, don't overthink it, I guess, because we often overthink things. I would just add too much structure too early. So don't worry about these things. Do what you know already, and learn things if you get stuck more than anything else. Like, don't just learn things just for the sake of it. Sometimes it's fun and it's okay, but there's just no end to the amount of things you can learn. You can spend your whole life on things learning, and sometimes you'll need to find where your skills you're no longer the best person to do things, and that's hopefully when you'll have the money to actually hire somebody else to build things for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. I don't know if there's any additional thoughts or anything else you want to say.
No, I think we covered quite a bit of ground. It was pretty fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I learned so
I
much.
look forward to seeing this.
No worries. There's so many nuggets, and I'll try and edit those nuggets and put on Twitter because you dropped a lot of gems here. Thanks so much. We're all waiting for Imogination and the next iteration of Picture That, and just seeing so many things from you, because you do have a lot of awesome creative ideas, and just want to start using your products as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I'm still learning everything. So everything, I'm always changing my position on things, always learning, always clearing the lens, in a sense. So there's never a stop to learning. So.
All right.
Yeah.
What you do next, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Peter, you too, sir.